So I went to bed the night before. It was the Queen's funeral the day before, with a worsening headache and just thought a bit of a hangover because I've been away for a weekend with some of my mates in Ireland. So thought nothing of it, but woke up at about 4:30 in the morning and just my speech totally drained with me, drained away from me. So my wife asked me what the time was, and I went to say it's about 4:30, and I got it's about, and then my voice changes into guttural noises with no speech at all, really just noise. And so from that point of view, I was very concerned, put the light off, but I couldn't get back to sleep, and I had a rising fear through my entire body that something had changed forever, and it was just that peace in your stomach that something was devastatingly wrong. So I get back up again about 10-15 minutes later, went to the bathroom, and I couldn't even bring myself to look in the mirror. As I remember that so clearly. And so eventually did and went to speak, and there was nothing at all. There was no sound, there was no breath actually in my mouth at all. I couldn't make myself speak. It's the most unbelievable time, and something that is so natural to you is just taken away completely. From then it was just an absolute terror I had, that I knew something had changed. It was no going back. I didn't know what it was, but I knew I couldn't speak, and my brain was alive. Everything was all still there. My intelligence, my thought process was still there, but I could no longer communicate in any way, shape or form, and through speech. And my wife got up, and I was just emotional overload, to be honest with you, at that point. And I think I knew it was a stroke. I remember that, but I do not know why. Maybe just the speech, because I had no sign of slump in my face. But anyway, long story short, we decided to go to the hospital immediately, and that was me. I was checked in the hospital, and it was diagnosed as a stroke.
What was the immediate impact on you at that moment?
Just a total loss of communication was the first part of it, really. And I can't say I get used to that, but you get used to the fact I couldn't speak for the first hour, 2 hours. Then when I got into hospital, I was given a pad and a pen, and what was so unbelievable was I couldn't write either. So I couldn't write any words. Any words that I was trying to write were coming out, back to front, the wrong spelling. It was just so weird. I couldn't write at all. What my brain was telling me what to write, but my hand wasn't writing what my brain had said that's what you need to write. And so there was no writing, and even I could maybe start to form letters on the left-hand side of the page, but as I went across the page, it just went completely up the way and down the way, and so it was all very confusing and bizarre. But so no speech, no writing at all, and no form of communication at all. And for that, it was just a rise and an escalation of terror beyond belief as to what's going on here and where would it stop, because how do you deal with that? It's, when things go wrong in people's life, they usually come at people from just, out of the blue. And that's what it felt like to me. I went to bed one night, woke up the next morning, all of a sudden my life has changed, and I've got no reason for it at all.
What was the diagnosis that you were given at that time?
the initial feedback with A&E was that I had a CT scan. CT scan confirmed I had a hemorrhagic bleed, hemorrhagic stroke in my left hand frontal lobe, which had knocked out my entire communication and language centre as a result, which is why I could not speak at all. And also from that, I noticed as well that all my knowledge of technology and how to use any phone or technological device, second by second, that knowledge was just dripping out my brain. But so the diagnosis was that I had a hemorrhagic stroke with severe aphasia, which was causing so much of a problem with my communication.
What was the impact on your family at that time?
It was a very troubling time for all of us, but with myself, I think I was just locked up in the whole world of not being able to communicate with my family. Because I had COVID as well, I was very locked off I was in a COVID ward, so I couldn't get access to any friends or family apart from my wife. So that was a bit dispiriting as well. I couldn't use the phone as well, but my family was, they researched a lot of work for me, and it always feels now and at the time that we're doing a lot of research during the night and all sorts of stuff that I couldn't do, and then my wife was coming back in with tips and things to do that might get me through it. But the communication with my family was difficult is at the very start because of that.
Had you ever heard of the word aphasia?
Never heard the word aphasia in my entire life, but and I find that quite distressing now, because a third of all stroke patients end up with a form of aphasia. I was faced with the term aphasia. In stroke, I understood the word stroke and what happened to people then. But for me, it was, I had to get myself educated as what that was, what aphasia was, how it could affect me. And I worked with the medical professionals at the time. But for me, it was this, speaking about it was to bring to light what it is, because anyone with aphasia, your intelligence is all there. You're a competent person. But in our culture, as in any culture, the sign of intelligence is how intelligent you are, if you like, comes from how you communicate and how effective you are in the communication. So when communication is taken away from you, it can bring you back into being withdrawn, because what's the point of communicate, because you can't. And so it's always for me, it was just about putting forward in my words how my experience was with that, with how people could communicate with me and couldn't communicate with me, if you like. So finishing off my sentences was, for me, it was devastating. So I think there's a term, like a normal conversation takes like 2 seconds between each party as you're communicating. With somebody who's got aphasia, it's maybe about 10 seconds. And it's about, for people to understand that, just to enjoy the silence while the person gets themselves their words in order to speak, if you can, because the words are not in order in your mind. The way I thought about it at the time is that every single word or experience you've had in your life, your brain has had it all catalogued, and it knows where it is. But the minute aphasia kicks in, or for me a stroke and aphasia as a result, the brain is searching about in that big warehouse in the mind for the words, which it used to know where it was, but now they've disappeared. So it's like all your intelligence is there, but it's all mixed up, and the brain is trying to find where it is again. So you can almost see the word that you're looking for, but it's like a shadow around the corner. You can't get to the word, and you used to know that the word was so it would just come to you like that. So aphasia for me was like just a total loss of spelling, of vocabulary. Used to have a wide vocabulary, but even now I'm only 23 weeks on, but the vocabulary has shrunk so much, and you're trying to teach your brain constantly to go out and find the words that are there.
What would your advice be to a family or friends of somebody that is suffering from aphasia? How should they interact? What's the best thing to do? Do they really hold back with their...
Yeah, I think the first message I would always have is that people with who are afflicted by aphasia, they've all got the intelligence they always had. It's just the brain is scrambling about to find where it is now, because it's not in the catalogue program that it had before. So the person is still a competent, intelligent person, but it just takes a longer time to get the words out that they used to come so fast, frequent, and so, without even thinking about it. And so a lot of the time, the words are at the tip of your tongue. So I would say for person to person, somebody might be very thankful for somebody saying the word. I would say just enjoy the silence. Don't make sure by the person themselves what do they like, but enjoy the silence while somebody's searching for the words. And also, I would always say, don't make questions very closed. So the one thing I remember in hospital was, do you want a tea, coffee, biscuit, or a drink of water? And you're thinking, oh, I've got four choices here, and I can't communicate which one. So you're going all the way back. It's the first one. And so it becomes a game of charades, and I was never any use of that. So do you want a cup of tea? Just hold there, or would it be coffee? And I think it's a skill in itself, getting the structured questions where it's only one answer.
Was there a conscious moment where you said, I'm not letting this beat me?
First of all, I'm very respectful because aphasia is still there. So I'm nervous of it. But it's a good point. For me, I can split it down into 3 weeks total in the kind of hospital sense and just getting out of hospital. In the first 4 days, it was nothing but terror and agony of communicating and not knowing where I was going to be, where I was going to die, to be honest with you. It was in the second week, I was lucky enough to get moved to a separate ward or a room. And that just, I think I got over the fact by about 4 or 5 days that I wasn't going to die. And so it was about, right, where do we go with this then? And I think that private room allowed me for the first time to just relax a bit and bring back in something that I used to practice quite well, was mindfulness. And that mindfulness allowed me to just consciously being present in the present moment, and started to settle the mind with the body. and get a bit of headspace really, but also allowed me to get from the why to what. So if you're in why, you're in your brain, and why is just a continual circling of why this, why that, why this, the next thing, to get to what. What do I need to do now? What do I need to do in the next minute? What do I need to do the next hour or day to get through this, to get by it? At that point in time, with the prognosis and the different chats with doctors, I just decided that there's no way this is getting the better of me. I'm going to really try hard and educate myself and go a bit harder to get speech back.
How far ahead are you?
I'm not too sure myself. One day it's up and down, but I think it's when I speak to the speech therapists and my stroke team, anywhere between 2 and 3 years ahead of where they thought I would be at that point in time in hospital. I understand that it's very difficult to gauge where anybody will be, but it's all based on, I think it's all based on the fact that I couldn't speak at all during my time in hospital of nearly 3 weeks. And of that, then the prognosis is you will be about anywhere between 2, 3, 4 years, whatever, and be left with learning difficulties and major amounts of maybe what's called dyslexia, speech problems.
What were the lowest points throughout all of this that you've gone through?
Yeah, quite a few. But the most dramatic lowest points for me would have been, no doubt, in the first 3 or 4 days, having suffered a stroke. So in hospital, being unable to communicate, and then within 24 hours of being admitted to hospital, I went through partial seizures. So my right-hand side of her face started about 1 o'clock in the morning, started to seize. Because of my left-hand brain, it was my right-hand face. And for me, it was a terrifying experience because it didn't look so bad. Now, I know when I recorded myself, but how it felt like my whole face was contorting in itself. And I thought, this is me. All of a sudden, if I don't fight this, I'm going to be left with, I don't know, my face contorted somehow because of the stroke. And because it happened so many times, I thought, and I'd heard before that if you've had one stroke, quite often you'd have another stroke in the first 48 hours. And I was terrified that those were continuous strokes that I was having. Between that and emotional overload of, as I put it before, a night of silent screams is how I describe it. Is you just face down the pillow thinking, what's happened here and what's going to happen? And then with the twitching, I get up to understand what it looked like, and I collapsed in the bathroom and get taken back to bed. I get taken for 2 CT scans in the morning, just to understand what happened to me. And so they were able to confirm there was no further bleeding, but just that whole world of the first 3 days was what's going to happen to me, what's happened to me already, things going to go on. And for me, I can describe it as my thought process was, in a second, I was gone. So who was I now? And who was I likely to be from here on in? A 30-year professional career just derailed. And how could I ever even get back to that at all? And I think as well, the worrying point in my head was that I was 52, and 2 floors above me in the same hospital wing, my dad had died at 53, and that was almost constant in my head. Is this what's happening here?
The treatment you've had sounds incredible. You've made an incredible amount of progress. What have you anything to say about the NHS?
From the minute that I walked through the E&D doors of a hospital, till a minute, or until today, in fact, is absolutely fantastic. What's driven me in my journey is being hope. Now, every stage of the NHS, every doctor, nursing staff, whatever, always gave hope, and that's what driven me on. Even from the A&E doctor when I went in, he came back to me. I knew there was a lot of conversations going on about what was happening to me, but he sat down with me and very personable. He grabbed my arm and he said to me, you can't speak just now, but I'll make a bet with you. Not a bet, a deal, sorry. That's a phrase right there. Deal with you. That you will come back here, and I don't know when that will be, because we don't know what the recovery is right, would be like for you. But you'll come back here, you'll speak to me face to face, and we'll shake hands on that. So that was a medical professional from the minute I arrived at the hospital that gave me hope. All the way through the COVID ward was very frantic with all different patients, but the nursing staff there were incredibly brilliant with myself. And even although they're so busy, there was some nursing staff at night when I was at my lowest ever, it's my worst points, and they sat with me for an hour, 2 hours. They FaceTimed my wife. They talked to me about life in general, not about me, but just in life. All the way through to the specialist stroke ward, where it's just fantastic. And again, the minute I checked into the specialist stroke ward, I tried to speak again. And the nurse who was in charge said, "Whoa, that's going to get you stressed here. So your job here is not to try and speak so much. It's our job to understand how you communicate what's best for you. So it's our job of learning how you communicate. You just take your time." And it was like a comfort blanket around me at that time. So the speech therapy after it at home is second to none. Occupational health therapy, second to none. And the leading consultant for stroke, every interaction with NHS for me had been unbelievable.
So at the end of this, what is your hope for the future?
Hope for the future is continuing on with my speech. My speech is not all there, but it's okay. I'm good with it just now. Is building up more emotional and stress resilience, because post-stroke emotion and post-stroke resilience to stress it gets affected badly. I've found that with myself. So if I can be anywhere, like I was before, I have to build up that resilience to stress and coping with emotion. So speech, emotion, stress, and just getting back to where I used to be as much as possible. I think the other thing as well is that there's no doubt about it. You change your life. You change your how you look at life. So before, I would have been driven about all the things that I could drive forward in a professional career. And now I'm as driven by that, but I'm more driven by what I get out of every day, and see what life of, not life, how many, how I live every day from then on in. I think that's where I am just now. But it's there's bits and pieces along the way that I've just, for 20 minutes at a time, you're the old Andy Ward, or just about my old self, and then other times you're not. So it's a journey in progress, and hopefully it'll keep on going the way it's gone so far. But for me, the reason I'm talking to yourself and wanting to do this was because when I was in my lowest points in that journey and getting the prognosis at that time, if somebody with 23 weeks on from having taken a stroke, and that's just less than 6 months, had been speaking in a video or a YouTube clip to me about there was no speech at all, but just less than 6 months on, I can speak more or less than I used to. That would be, at the very least, very, very encouraging for me to, as I said before, you get that fight in you to just go forward in a positive mindset and that hope, because it's all about hope, I think. Hope is what drives it. In the very least sense, it would be encouraging, and I suppose in its most sense, it would be inspirational to me. And so when my recovery happened so fast with my speech therapy that I was given, I was determined to get as much back as I could in order to, say to other people who will be in the same positions that it can be done. It can be done. It's just all about how you do it and putting yourself into it and getting what you want to get out of it, really.
What do you want people to take away from this film?
The one quote I read one point that was fantastic was that it's my stroke and my recovery and my life. And so it's up to me to drive that. Medical professionals will tell you all day long, as you rightly should, what you could do, what you shouldn't do, what you should be doing more of. But it's about your own positive mindset, about facing it head on, and you'll get out of it what you put in. But you've got to be a fighter in it, I think, and lose any thoughts of it being passive. And if I could just sit here, it'll all work itself out. And I know it's very difficult for anybody, but that was the only way through it for me. And I think, I can only think that's why I'm so far ahead in recovery just now.